Hi everyone, and welcome to today's run. So in this video I wanted to recap with you guys how I got on at the London Marathon and let you know what went well and also let you know what didn't quite go to plan. So let's do it. Here we go. Okay, so before we get into what went well and what didn't work out for me on the day, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone that's checked out the race day vlog. The response from that video has been absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll put a link up in the top corner. Head over and check that out and you can see basically firsthand how I got on during the marathon. But yeah, it was a really great day and I wanted to try and capture the atmosphere and basically all the sights and sounds as we went through the race, and you guys seem to have responded really positively, and thank you very much for all the likes you've given me. And it was also so nice to have a chat with you guys in the comments, because a lot of the people that have viewed the video run the race themselves, and it was good to find out how different people got on during the race. And yeah, it was just really nice to hear your positive words, and so thank you very much for enjoying the video, I guess. Now let's get into what things went well and what didn't quite work out. So I'll start with the positives. Now obviously, if you haven't seen the kit video that I did before the marathon, letting you know guys what I was going to be using, wearing, etc., basically all of my kit that I had on me performed perfectly, apart from one thing which I will get into in the negatives. Everything was excellent. My clothes kept me comfortable and basically chafe free, which is what you want when you're running 26.2 miles. But the most important thing, and the thing that I found mostly invaluable on the day, was the Compress Sport Free Belt Pro. That thing was just fantastic. I had bought that a couple of weeks out from the marathon, so I hadn't literally trained with it for the whole training block, so I was a bit sort of optimistic about how it would perform on race day. But I had done some distance in it, so I was quietly confident that it would do the job, but obviously I wasn't sure how it would cope with 26.2 miles. But it carried all my gear perfectly without any bounce, and it was so comfortable, breathable as well. Honestly, didn't even know that I was wearing it. That thing had 500 mil of tailwind in it for about, must have been the good part of 20 miles with no bouncing, and it was perfect. It held 5 gels, and it also was carrying my coat, phone and a bit of change in the back, and honestly I couldn't give it high enough praise. It really worked well for me. So if you're running a marathon and you're not sure what to wear, I know a lot of people recommend a flip belt, and those are relatively cheap and obviously they do get the job done. But if you wanted something with a bit more maybe capacity, and obviously having that option that I used to carry your coat, it's definitely something to look into. In terms of other things that went really well on the day, something that I didn't anticipate was the support. Obviously you see it on the news and you kind of get a sense of the atmosphere, but when you're actually there physically among it, like in the middle of those crowds, everyone cheering you along, it really doesn't compare to what you see on the television. And it was just fantastic to chat to some people as well along the way. I said hello to a couple of people that were interested about what I was doing, running along with the camera, so that was nice to meet a couple of you guys out on the course. And hopefully if you're checking out this video, let me know in the comments. But yeah, that sort of atmosphere was so warm and it just sort of kept you going, and you didn't really think about the distance. Obviously, like you see in the video, I was looking at the sort of mile markers, kilometer markers, and it was just like, it made me question, like, have I really run that far? Because I think the crowds just kept you buzzing. It was such a strange experience and something that I've never sort of felt before in my life. So yeah, that was really good. That was a real big positive thing for me. So if you're out there supporting, thank you for that. It was really, really awesome. Other things that went well on the day, I think I got my pacing pretty bang on. Obviously I didn't end up hitting the target times that I wanted to, but that couldn't have been helped, and I just wanted to basically get round. But if I could hit that sub 4, it would have been fantastic, but on the day it just wasn't meant to be. But nevertheless, I'm really, really pleased with my performance, and my pacing was relatively even. And again, I'll get onto an issue that I had with that later on when we get to the negatives. Okay, so another positive that I found on race day was my fueling and nutrition. Everything worked out well for me. I didn't have any stomach issues, didn't need to use the toilet, and I felt relatively comfortable the whole way through. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my flip belt did have 5 gels and that 500ml of tailwind, and that was just enough, I think, to get me around the 26.2. If I was going any further, possibly could have done with maybe another 1 or 2 gels, but that was perfect for the distance. I ended up taking the gels, one at the start just before we got going, and then I also took one at 16k, 25k, 35k, and then I had the final one at 40k just to get me across that line. The tailwind was a great supplement to the water. Obviously that's full of loads of good stuff for your body to keep you charged up, but I was just sipping on that throughout the whole course of the race. Probably ran out around sort of like the 20-mile mark, and obviously I topped that up with a couple of water station bottles they were handing out, Buxton I think it was, along the course. So I picked up about 1 or 2 of those sort of 250ml bottles as we went through. But the good thing about those also was that we're actually in bottles, because I know a lot of events they just hand you a cup, and that's relatively difficult to run and sort of keep it in the cup. But with the bottles, you keep the lid on, just run and then drink it at your own pace. So sort of like a couple of 100 meters after the aid station, you could just slowly drink that water down, and it also helped out when consuming those gels. So yeah, fueling and nutrition went really well. Okay, so first thing up on the negative points, and there's not many, which is really, really good, is going to be, obviously, if you'd seen the race day vlog, you'll know that I wasn't very well on the day, and there was nothing I could do about that. It was just unfortunate. I'd picked up a cold on sort of like Friday night, really suffering with it all day Saturday. Luckily, I was able to get some extra sleep on Saturday night just to recharge the batteries, and I hope that sort of cleared the worst of it out. But obviously on the day I wasn't 100%, and that sort of I think meant that I wasn't ready to perform as well as I knew I could. And I noticed straight out of the gate, as soon as I crossed the start line, that my heart rate was really, really elevated. We're literally talking in the first kilometre I was about 170 beats per minute, which for me is like right up there. And yeah, I was really struggling. I didn't feel like I was suffering, but you could tell that my body really was fighting against me. It was like, what are you doing? You should be resting, you've got a cold, you're ill, stop running. But yeah, we did get it done, obviously, but that was one negative point. I think the timing of me getting that cold wasn't very good. Now, before the race, I told friends and family that were coming to see me to meet me or to be at a point that I'd picked. So I sent out the address and I said, look, this would be a good place for you to be if you could get there, and I'll expect you to be there at this sort of time. And obviously they could see where I was on the tracker, so they knew when to be there. But unfortunately, on the day, they couldn't get there. So that meant that I didn't know that they wouldn't be where I told them to be. So basically, I was running along the road for about a kilometre, and I had planned to drop off my coat and just hand a few things over the barrier to them, just so I wasn't carrying it for the last sort of 3 miles. But unfortunately they couldn't get to where I thought they were going to be. So as I ran down the road, I ran past the point and I didn't see anyone, and that sort of hit me, sort of my motivation a little bit, because I was really looking forward to seeing them. My motivation was dipping a little bit coming towards the end of the race, feeling slightly tired, and I thought, you know, this is the lift I need, and it just wasn't there, unfortunately. But as I mentioned, I had my coat out ready to hand over, and I thought, oh no, they're not here, I must have missed them, maybe I've missed them. So I thought, right, I'll put my coat away and I'll make a call, just to see if they saw me, and just to let them know that I was sorry that I missed them. But then it's literally got a bit further down the road, it must have been close to another kilometre down the road, I heard everyone shouting at me, Ben, Ben, and I had my coat back in my belt, and I had my phone, trying to struggle to get my phone away because I was literally about to make that call. And yeah, and when I saw them I was panicked. I was like, oh no, I'm not prepared for this, because in my head I'd imagined it differently, and everything sort of running like a smooth sort of transition, and getting the stuff dropped off, giving a few hugs and kisses and all that kind of stuff, and then I was just sort of flustered. So I'll insert some footage here that my partner Katie took, and me having an absolute meltdown, and it sort of looks like I'm really, really rude and ungrateful for their support, but I was just sort of in such a confused and sort of scared, not scared, that's a bit too strong, but yeah, a panic state, I suppose, of yeah, not knowing what to do. Like, oh no, here's everything, and I was just trying to throw everything over to them in a rush, and yeah, it does look like I'm not very grateful for them being there, but trust me, I really, really was.
Ben! 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 Keep going!
Nigel!
Take this. I'll hold it out, take that
Love you, bye! Keep going!
Okay, so there you go, watch me struggle with my coat. But yeah, as I say, it wasn't that much of a negative point. It was just something that I remember on the day that didn't quite go to plan. It was no one's fault, obviously. If they could have got to the spot that I told them to get to, I'm sure they would have been there, and there probably was reasons where they had to be where they were. But at the end of the day, it really was great to see them get their support. So nice to have them cheering me right there at the end of that 26.2. I mean, after 24 miles of running, support and cheers were much appreciated, I will tell you that. So yeah, in terms of that being a negative, I suppose it's both a positive and a negative, but it didn't really affect the race too much. As I alluded to earlier with pacing and kit, my Garmin didn't really perform as I'd intended it to. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you'll know that I've struggled with my watch in the past, and yeah, it did pretty much the same thing again on race day, but nothing I could do about it. For the race I was using the Pace Pro feature on the watch, and basically using that to keep me on track to try and hit that target time. But when we reached sort of around the 14th mile, I think it was, you go sort of under a flyover and you go underground a little bit, and then coming out the other side of that, the watch just had an absolute meltdown, and I think it completely lost where I was, because following on from that, it was saying I was doing sort of 8 and 9 minute kilometers on the other side of that tunnel, and I knew I hadn't slowed down that much, because that was nearly half as slow as I was already doing, and I wasn't traveling at that pace, and I know for a fact I was not walking. So yeah, that sort of threw me out a little bit, and then I basically picked up the pace to try and make back the deficit that my watch said I had, when I hadn't really actually lost that much time. So I did overcook a few kilometers towards the second half of the race that I didn't need to do, and that sort of threw me out a little bit. And I think overall it tracked the whole race as being only 41.5 kilometers. So somewhere along the line it's lost a lot of signal and it's lost me a lot of distance. which also meant that I didn't get a marathon PB on my Strava, which, as you know, if it's not on Strava, it didn't happen. So yeah, that was my final negative point for the whole race. But yeah, not that much of a bummer really, but it's something that I thought I'd mention just so you guys knew what happened. So I think that's about it. If you have any other questions for me about the marathon, drop them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. And also, if you run on Sunday, let me know how you did. Let me know what went well, what didn't work, and yeah, we can share our experiences together with the community. So that's about it for today's video, guys. If you liked what you've seen, please press the like button, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing for more running videos like this. So that's it. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you all in another video. Peace.